Lovely views from my driveway. I'm in the process of cleaning out my van, and I will get into that in this video. So after my last trip, the 2.5 months where I went out to Vegas and then up through Indiana and Michigan and all that, through all that, and then actually even before I left for that trip, when I did my tour of the panoramic, it kind of started the wheels turning in my head. You've heard me mention, plenty of times, probably ad nauseum, how I love the front dinette floor plans. And I've reached the point now where I have over 80,000, almost 81,000 miles, pretty close to 81,000 miles on this van. And after I went to the Adventure Van Expo, I really started thinking about some things I wanted to change on here. One of them being upgrading my solar to get a better, little bit better off-grid capability. And I got a quote for it. Found a really great place, by the way, and I'll put a link. They just do RV solar, and I think it's called RVsOffGrid. But anyway, I'll put a link to them if you're in the area. They use all Victron. It looks like they do a really good job. In fact, the day that I went to get my estimate, there was a Class A, and he was getting like 4,000 watts of solar, if you could imagine. My God, if I could get 4,000, could you imagine 4,000 watts of solar on a van? Not even possible, but you'd have to like tow a trailer with like solar panels. But anyway, it kind of got me thinking about, do I continue to invest with the amount of miles that I have and how that affects resale? Because you're not really going to get a lot of that back. And so, you kind of have to make the decision where like that doesn't matter, and you're just going to do what you're going to do and go forward. But I felt like I was kind of at this crossroads that if I am going to sell it, like I can't really put more miles on it at this point. I have to, make a decision. I'm either going to, commit, or I'm going to sell it and get a van that has the floor plan that I really like. In the last few years, I've really, I've kept my eye on Panoramic. I've kept my eye on Nuvo. Just to kind of see how they're progressing. And of course, Panoramic now becoming more readily available to the States. That made a big difference. Nuvo has really kind of like stepped up their game, with the Plus, and they're carrying over some of the design features of the Plus into their other models, the Light and the Pop. And little things like this, the Corian countertop, a little more polish on the inside that I really like. It looks really good, to the point where I actually, and I didn't do any filming anyway, so I drove out to Vegas and spent 2 days at their factory, just walking through the vans, just kind of really studying them. And I really liked what I saw, and it really, I knew at that point I had to make a decision. So it was, I kind of kept going back and forth between the Nuvo and the Panoramic, because they are comparable. They're both on the same chassis, similar floor plans, and there's clearly differences between the two. The Panoramic, obviously has much more, more windows, has the skylight, beautifully built. It has systems I'm more familiar with, the Black Tank, Truma Combi, with propane, and then the Truma AC. I really would like to get away from propane, so that's kind of like a negative for me, and it's just personal preference there, because I actually, like, even with this one, I would prefer not to have propane, and really on this van, the only thing that propane does is heat and hot water. So then looking at the Nuvo. Now the Nuvo has the Rixon system, which I think is just so cool. It actually runs off your fuel tank, and that's for your heat and hot water. Plus it has tankless hot water, so you have unlimited hot water. So no propane. So I really like that. It comes with the water, what is it called? The Accu, I'll put the name in here. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it has a water filter that's a UV water filter that's supposed to be really, really good. So that would limit, carrying a lot of bottled water. What else does it have? I think those were like the two big things. I don't care for the cassette. So these were the things that I was, kind of going back and forth on, the panoramic being a little bit more familiar in its systems, or the Nuvo being a little bit more off-grid capable because of its systems. And so, like I said, I went back and forth. I finally made a decision. And so my decision was on the Nuvo. I think it's probably the best option for me. And what was really nice is I talked with the people at Nuvo, because when I was trying to make my decision, I was kind of leaning towards the panoramic, and then I talked to the people at Nuvo, and some of the things that I had concerns on, they're willing to work with me on that, so that's awesome. So one of the things is they have a standard is a 12 volt AC, Dometic, I think it's called the XR, I don't know. It's a Dometic AC. It's supposed to be a pretty good AC, but it is 12 volt, and 12 volt, your cooling is only going to, if you're in really hot temperatures, it's only going to cool down so much. And I've been there, done that with, now granted, that 12 volt versus the 12 volt that I had, which was junk, basically, I don't think you could even compare those two. But I've been there with the 12 volt, and I really thought about that, because the plus side of a 12 volt is you're not running off your inverter, which means you're not draining your battery as fast. So if you are wanting to camp off grid and run your AC, it's a lot easier. You're going to get better battery life. But I really thought about it, and I thought, if it's hot, I'm plugging in. That's the bottom line. I mean, if I'm going somewhere, I'm looking at the weather and it says it's going to be 100 degrees, I'm going to a campground. I'm not even going to try, because I have tried that before. And I can tell you, even with the 12 volt that I had, I think it was like 2 years ago, I went down to Corpus Christi in August, which I don't know why I did that. But anyway, it was really humid, and that Pro Air 12 volt that I had I couldn't get the van down below 85 degrees. And so anyway, which is why I switched to the Truma. So Nuvo is now offering, so like I said, they have the Dometic 12 volt, but you have the option, if you want, to get the Truma 110, the Truma Venta, which is a 110. So that's one thing. So I upgraded to the Truma. And then the other thing they're offering, because I, how I feel about cassettes. So they're also offering that you can swap that out for a Lavio. So I'm doing that, which is really kind of cool, because I'm like, no black tank, no cassette to dump. I mean, that's like, wow. I'm actually really excited about that. So the only thing I would have to dump is a gray tank. And the other plus to the Nuvo is 40 gallon fresh, 40 gallon gray. So, and that combined with the unlimited hot water, I mean, you can take, now you don't want to take long showers, but you can take a little bit more of a normal shower. I mean, you still want to be conservative, because you don't want to have to dump and fill all the time. But so those were some of the factors that made my decision. And they were also really nice, because one of my concerns with, and I even noticed this in the panoramic, and it's just the nature of that floor plan, but because the AC's in the back, and then you have like a little kind of hallway. I mean, it's, not much, but it's where your bathroom and your fridge are. And then you have the dinette, so it's harder for the air to kind of flow forward as much. I mean, unless you have fans kind of pushing it forward. So I asked them, I said, would it be possible to kind of move that AC forward? And they're going to be able to do it, which is good. So I think with the Truma, and the Truma is really good about pushing air out in either direction. Because even in this fan, like my AC is here, and I can feel it a little bit warmer up front, and part of it, slider doors, just in general, at least with the Transit, I'm assuming the ProMaster would be the same thing. For some reason, that window is the magnet for heat, because that would be my big heat source. But I did notice, the Truma does push the air really well. So that's, that was like my big concern, and they were able to address it. So, and I did notice when I went to sit in the panoramic recently, because I've spent a lot of time in both vans. I mean, like I said, I didn't, just go take one 5-minute peek and go, oh yeah. I mean, I really spent time both in the panoramic and, multiple times since I did the video on the panoramic. I think I've been back there probably 4 or 5 times now to look at it, and even got to drive one finally. But I have driven the ProMaster a couple times, and I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, the last time I went to see the panoramic, they hadn't turned the AC on to cool it down before I got there, so it was warm. And we turned the AC on, and it was an Aventa. And I can tell you, sitting in the front dinette, unless I stuck my hand out into the hallway, I really couldn't feel the cool air. So it is a nature of that floor plan. So hopefully, I think we've solved it by moving the AC, which was really nice of the people at Nuvo to work with me on that. So I'm really excited. So I did put down a deposit, and I am selling this van. It was a tough decision. This van has been great. The Coachmen has been great. Dealing with Coachmen as a company has been great. I love this van. And that's what made it a tough decision. It's just that I'm being honest, the floor plan drives me crazy. It really does. When you walk in and you see the bathroom, and that's just personal preference. Now, a lot of people, this works perfect for them. And for the most part, I made it really work for me. It's just, I like having that open front area. It should be ready sometime probably towards the end of November, which I'm really excited about. I was, kind of nervous. I do love the Transit chassis. And of course, I've had a lot of people tell me you're going to, the Ford's better, blah, blah, blah. There's pros and cons to both. This is a heavier, or it definitely feels heavier when you're driving it. It's very comfortable to drive. It's easy to drive. It has a lousy turning radius because it is all-wheel drive, and I can tell you that the ProMaster has a better turning radius. The new ProMasters, now I never drove the older version of it, but the new transmission and everything, it actually feels pretty nimble. It is a little bit louder when you press on the gas. I'm not racing it, so, and it has some great features. It has all the same safety features that I have now, which is really nice. One thing, I'll have 2 less tires to worry about because it won't have dualies. And like I said, it is front wheel drive, and a little bit shorter inside than the Transit. The Transit is, I'm not sure how many, if it's 6 something, I'm not sure, but those are just little things. But like I said, it was kind of a tough decision because this van has taken me so many places. Clearly, 81,000 miles. I've been traveling in it. It has not been sitting in a repair shop, and that speaks volumes. If you see those videos, particularly if you ever watch anything from Liz Amazing, there's a lot of brands out there that I feel bad for those people, but you buy an RV and then you don't get to use it. I've enjoyed the heck out of this thing. So I'm really hoping that I can sell it and not have to trade it, mainly because I would love, if I sell it, I'm going to sell it with the mod. And, I'd love for somebody else to enjoy the mod. If I trade it, I have to take my stuff out, and we're not going to put the couch back together. The dealer will put the couch back together, but I have to put the couch back in. And of course, if somebody were to buy it from me, I would give them the couch anyway, so they have the option. Because that's one thing, when we did the mod, I call it non-destructive. We didn't, we didn't tear anything up. We just took the couch apart, basically. So anyway, but in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that, this is the other thing. It turns out, so I noticed like a bump on the back of my heel where the Achilles tendon is. And this started about, I guess last year I started to notice it. And then in January, February, when I was in Florida, I was really trying to, get more steps in and do walking. So like if I was at a campground or something, I would walk around and try to get my steps in. I'd, go for several walks a day and stuff. And it would just really, really hurt. And I'd put ice on it, but nothing seemed to really do anything. And then Um, Finally, my husband's like, you need to go see the doctor. So I was like, all right. I was kind of procrastinating because I had about exactly almost to the day 15 years ago, mid October 15 years ago, in 2008, I had foot surgery on this same foot. It's on my left foot because I tore a tendon. And that one I actually like stepped off a curb and my ankle turned and it actually tore the tendon. So anyway, so I went, and at first she was thinking, okay, we could treat this with shockwave therapy and stem cell. And I was like, that's great. No surgery. But of course, they have to do the MRI just to make sure. And so she sent me had me do the MRI. And then it turns out I actually have a ruptured tendon, and there's like one part of the tendon that's still connected because I can bend my foot, but it's almost a 2-inch tear. And she was like, what did you do? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I could tell you exactly what I did. I took Cipro. If you're not familiar, Cipro is an antibiotic that is black boxed. I think that's what they call it, black boxed, because it causes tendon ruptures or issues with tendon, among other things. There's a lot of things it causes, and a lot of people have a lot worse issues than I do, so I think I got out lucky. And the reason I took Cipro was for diverticulitis, because doctors just prescribe that along with this other one. I forget the name of it, Flagyl. And I can't even tolerate Flagyl. So once I realized that, now if I have to get an antibiotic for if I have a bout of diverticulitis, I tell them no Cipro. But what frustrates me is they don't even tell you, ahead of time, like, hey, we're going to prescribe this, but here's a warning. Like, nobody warns you. I had to Google it to find out. And so I know that's what caused it, because I didn't do anything other than walking. I mean, I didn't slam into a building, fall off a cliff. I didn't do anything. So that's a little frustrating. But anyway, so I have to have surgery on that, and I'm trying to remember now. I think it'll be about 8 weeks between, I think 4 weeks of staying off of it. So I think it's I can't remember now, 2 weeks in a cast, 2 weeks in a boot of staying off of it, somewhere in there. But I know it's going to be like 8 weeks of kind of a recovery. So the timing is good, I guess, with waiting on the new van to be built. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with all this. But and if you happen to see this and you are interested in my van, I will put a link to the posting for it if you're interested. I mean, it is a great van. Coachmen's a great company. It's not a reflection on Coachmen. I kind of want to make that really clear. It's probably one of the best built vans, anything that comes out of the major manufacturers. A lot of what I see, and I don't want to name names, but a lot of what I see is not very good. Very poor quality, and it's reflected in YouTube videos if you just do a search. But Coachmen, I mean, just the solid wood cabinetry, everything is just really solid in here. I mean, even things like using, marine grade, I don't know what it's called. It's like a vinyl, but, easy to clean, solid, the insulation, everything's just really solid on here. And like I said, it's just really kind of, for me, came down to floor plan. And I even toyed with the idea of like, well, do I try to really hardcore remodel this and put a front dinette in here and shift the bathroom and all that, and then it kind of was like, well, then I'm getting into territory of disturbing things. Like I said, when we did this mod, we didn't disturb any plumbing, didn't disturb any wiring, like none of that stuff was touched. It was just simply taking the couch out, making a wood platform, and putting a mattress on it. So yeah, the idea of doing a remodel and then risking, breaking something that we don't really understand or know or whatever, you're crossing into territory there that's, probably not a wise decision. But anyway, so that's kind of an update of what's going on around here. And hopefully, I'm excited to get the Nuvo and get back out on the road. I'm actually, I'm already having the fear of missing out. Every time I see a video of somebody going somewhere interesting, I'm like, oh, I got to add that to my list, and I can't wait to go there. And what am I going to fit that in? Because I am planning on going to Quartzsite in January, and then on to Florida. So from there, I kind of left the year open, just to kind of figure out where I want to go and explore and all that. There's a couple events in Florida again that I'm going to, Van Fest and Peace, Love, and Vans. Anyway, so I'm probably going to go ahead and end this here. Hopefully, when I see you in the next one, it's either going to be an update on how my foot surgery went or from my Nuvo. So there may be a little gap for videos during that time, but I'll be back.